The alarm didn't scream. It vanished. 1 second, the Academy's sky shimmered blue. The next, the shield was gone, and death fell from orbit. Children scattered. Fire rained down. And in the middle of it all, one human, the quiet instructor they called Uncle Rick, stood perfectly still. When a child cried his name, something ancient stirred behind his calm eyes. The galaxy would soon learn what that meant. Because when you hurt a child under a human's care, you don't fight a soldier. You unleash a honey badger. Hey there, legends. If that gave you chills, stick around. You're about to hear one of the most powerful HFY moments ever told. A story of courage, chaos, and one man who refused to back down. If you love stories where humanity reminds the stars why we're not to be underestimated, hit like, subscribe, and share. It helps us reach more HFY fans like you. Now let's dive in. The sound of laughter echoed through the Academy courtyard. Light, musical, innocent. You'd never guess this place trained the children of warriors and diplomats. Rick Walsh sat on a stone bench near the fountain, half smiling as alien kids played zero-gravity tag. 6 months ago, he'd thought it strange. Children from 47 worlds floating, tumbling, shouting in a dozen languages. Now it was normal. He wasn't here as a soldier anymore. Not really. His orders said, security instructor. But most days, Rick spent less time drilling guards and more time explaining what a platypus was to a room full of wide-eyed aliens. One of them, a little Centauri girl named Lyra, ran up holding a datapad. "Mr. Rick, I found that animal you told us about, the honey badger." Rick chuckled. "That's the one. Meanest little thing on Earth." Her violet eyes gleamed. "Is that why they call you that?" He froze. His old call sign. He hadn't heard it spoken aloud in years. "Who told you that, kid?" "The guards," she whispered. "They said you were scary when you fought." Rick sighed. "Only to people who needed scary. The honey badger is not mean. It just doesn't back down when something it loves is in danger, remember that." She smiled, nodded, and ran back to her friends. Rick watched her go, and that's when the feeling hit again. That crawling sense in the back of his neck, the one every soldier learns to trust. Something was wrong. The supply ship was late. The turrets had been running diagnostics all morning, and the comms chatter on his band was off. He tried talking to Headmaster Torvak, but the man had brushed him off with a polite academic smile. "This is a school, Sergeant Walsh. We will not frighten the children with military drills." "Fine." Rick had dropped it, but his gut hadn't. As the afternoon assembly began, he stood near the back, scanning the crowd the way soldiers never stop doing. Everything looked fine, too fine. And then, the shield vanished. It wasn't an explosion. No sound, no alarm. The shimmering blue dome that protected the facility just blinked out, like someone had erased it. Rick's eyes caught the moment a flock of birds, once bouncing off the barrier, suddenly flew straight through open sky. He didn't even think. "Get down!" he roared. 3 seconds later, fire poured from above. Assault ships, red-hulled, silent, dropped out of stealth. Marauder-class gunships, mercenaries, professionals. The first blast hit the east barracks, a wave of white plasma that erased the building. Children screamed. The ground shook. The smell of burning metal filled the air. Rick was already moving, instincts snapping back like a loaded spring. The armory was 300 meters away. The shelters were closer. He couldn't do both, but he had to try. He grabbed 2 frozen kids, shoved them behind cover. "Run to the admin building, go now." Their little faces trembled. "I need you to be brave," he said softly. "You can do that, right?" They nodded and bolted. Plasma bolts seared through the air. Guards were dropping. Automated defenses stayed offline, hacked before the attack even began. This was planned, coordinated, ruthless. Dark figures fell from the sky on jump jets, armored mercenaries landing like iron rain. Rick ducked behind a fountain as energy blasts chewed into the marble. And then, A voice. Uncle Rick. Laura, 30 meters away. Pinned with other children. Crying. He looked at her, at the mercenaries closing in, and at the armory, the one place that could arm him properly. The decision took half a heartbeat. He ran toward the children. Shots tracked him, slicing the air inches from his head. He dove, rolled, came up beside the group, shielding them with his body. "I'm scared," Laura sobbed. "I know," Rick said, smiling faintly. "But Uncle Rick's got you. The honey badger's awake." The mercenaries advanced. He had no weapon, only fists, instincts, and rage. He grabbed a broken metal rod from the debris and moved. Silent, fast, deliberate. 2 mercs fell before they realized a human was among them. The third turned too late. Rick drove the rod through his armor joint and took the rifle. He herded the children into a maintenance tunnel he'd memorized months ago. "Stay close, no sound," he whispered. They moved through the dim corridors, little feet padding behind him. Above them, explosions rumbled. The academy, their home, was being torn apart. At a junction, Rick stopped. Bootsteps overhead. He crept forward alone, peering up through a vent. 4 mercs were executing wounded guards in the hallway. Something in him went cold. He slipped up the ladder. The grate lifted silently. A hand clamped over a merc's mouth. A twist. A soft crack. Rick stripped the body for weapons, comm gear, and a rifle. He returned to the children, blood on his sleeves, eyes burning but calm. Elra stared at him, trembling. "I'm still me," he told her gently. "These are tools, to keep you safe. Understand?" She nodded. They reached the underground shelter, survivors huddled inside. A Centauri lieutenant gasped, "Sergeant Walsh, we thought you were dead." "Not yet," Rick said. He handed off the kids, checked the rifle's charge. "What's our status?" The lieutenant's answer was grim. Communications down, shields gone, no reinforcements for hours. Rick nodded, then said quietly, "Then I'll buy us hours." Someone laughed nervously. 1 man against 60? Rick's smile was slow, dangerous. 57, he corrected. "And you don't know much about honey badgers, do you?" He turned toward the door. LRA's small voice called out again. "Uncle Rick, don't go." He looked back, eyes soft. "Kid, this is what humans do when the sky falls." The door sealed shut behind him, and the legend of the honey badger began. Rick Walsh moved through smoke and ruin like a ghost. The facility that once echoed with laughter now groaned with fire and screams. Above, mercenaries barked orders, rounding up survivors. Their voices sounded confident, like they'd already won. They hadn't met him yet. In the comms chatter stolen from a dead mercenary's earpiece, he heard it clearly. Sector 7 clear, 40 hostages secured. Proceeding to lockdown. 40 hostages, children, teachers. His people. Rick's jaw clenched. He checked his rifle's charge. Half a cell. He'd have to make every shot count. In a world of numbers, Rick never cared for math, because humans don't count odds. They decide. He stalked the corridors, silent, precise. When 4 mercs passed beneath a broken light, Rick dropped from above, breaking necks before they could raise weapons. The 4th tried to shout. A plasma bolt silenced him. Then Rick vanished again. Within minutes, mercenary channels erupted. Team 5 unresponsive. Possible contact, human soldier. Their confidence began to crack. Fear, that oldest of weapons, crept in. Rick used it. He rerouted fire suppression systems to flood entire wings with dense foam, blinding their sensors. He threw sound grenades down empty halls. He made them think an army was coming. One by one, their voices grew frantic. "He's everywhere! No visuals. Watch your flanks." In truth, it was just one man. Angry, hurt, human. When 12 mercenaries grouped up to sweep a corridor, Rick triggered the trap. He'd wired a damaged power conduit with an energy cell from a fallen rifle. When they passed beneath it, he detonated it remotely. The hallway lit up with white-blue light. Screams. Then silence. Rick didn't wait to see the result. He was already moving. Every second mattered. Through the haze, a thought flickered. How many times have we done this? Humanity, fragile, flawed, short-lived, standing up against things that should crush them. Empires, armies, monsters. And yet somehow they kept getting back up. That was the part the galaxy never understood. He reached the communication hub, or what was left of it. The console sparked and smoked. Then he heard movement behind him. He spun, rifle up, and froze. Pax, Elora, and 2 other kids, covered in dust, clutching small toolkits. "Uncle Rick, we can help," Pax said. "We know how to fix this. The engineers let us help sometimes." Rick wanted to yell, to send them back, but he saw their eyes, wide but steady. They weren't afraid anymore. They were following his lead. "Okay," he said finally. "You fix it. I'll cover you." Minutes passed. Sparks danced. The kids whispered to each other, rerouting power lines like they'd done it all their lives. Finally, Pax looked up. "We can send one message, just for a few seconds." Rick hesitated, then typed 6 words. "Academy under attack. Honey Badger needs help." The transmitter beeped once, then silence. "Did it work?" one of the kids asked. Rick smiled faintly. "We'll find out." He guided them back to the shelter, where Lieutenant Dal had fortified the entry. "I've taken out half their force," Rick reported. "But they still hold the auditorium. 40 hostages. I'm going after them." Dal stared. "You can't. That's suicide." Rick's tone was calm. "So was my job description." Blura tugged his sleeve. "Uncle Rick, are you gonna die?" He knelt beside her. "Maybe," he admitted. "But that's not why I fight. Honey badgers don't fight to win, kid. They fight because something needs protecting." He stood, checked his rifle one last time. "When you hear explosions, that's your signal to move on the landing pads. Help's coming, one way or another." Then he left. The auditorium loomed ahead, its lights flickering through smoke. Rick crawled through ceiling vents, peering down. Dozens of terrified faces below, mercenaries encircling them. And there, the commander, crimson armor, calm voice. "You will be our message to the coalition," he said. "Your governments will surrender, or you will die." Rick set his charges, one along the north wall, another above the stage. He waited until Cross, and that was the name he heard over comms, raised his weapon at a crying teacher. Then Rick whispered, "Class dismissed." The explosion tore through the wall. Panic erupted. Alarms screamed. Fire suppression foam poured from the ceiling. Rick dropped through the booth window, rifle blazing. 3 mercs fell instantly. Cross shouted orders, trying to regroup, but Rick's chaos was total. The hostages scattered toward exits as Rick laid down covering fire. "Move!" he yelled, voice raw. "Get them out!" Headmaster Torvak, the same man who once told him peace made drills unnecessary, grabbed a teacher and shouted, "You heard him! Go!" Rick leapt from the balcony, rolling hard, firing again. A bolt grazed his arm. He ignored it. Cross emerged from the haze, shielded, furious. "So you're the honey badger." Rick grinned through blood. "Yeah. Disappointed?" Their shots clashed, plasma against sheer will. Cross's armor flared, deflecting hit after hit. "You can't win," the commander roared. Sick kept firing, not trying to. "Then what are you doing?" Rick's voice turned quiet. "Protecting what matters." Then the auditorium doors burst open. Lieutenant Dal and 20 defenders stormed in, firing. The mercs broke formation. Confusion. Screams. Rick lunged at Cross. They crashed to the floor. 2 bodies, 2 wills colliding. Cross was stronger. Rick was meaner. "Insane human," Cross gasped. "Probably," Rick grunted, head-butting him through his visor. The ceiling groaned, charges detonating in the rafters. Dal shouted, "Everyone out! Building's coming down!" Rick tried to grab Cross again, but Dal dragged him away. "You've done enough." They ran through the smoke as the roof collapsed behind them. Outside, the courtyard glowed with fire and chaos, but the hostages were free. Moments later, streaks of light tore across the sky. Coalition fighters. Reinforcements. Rick stood there, shaking, bloodied, staring upward as relief washed over him. When Commander Yates arrived, he looked at the wreckage and at Rick, barely standing. "You look like hell." "Feel worse," Rick muttered. "But you did it," Yates said softly. "You saved them." Rick didn't answer. He just looked toward the kids. Lara, Pax, the others, alive, smiling through tears. That was enough, because the galaxy could keep its math and logic. Humans, they fight for heart. They fight because when a child cries out, Omi-Wan answers. So, what did you think, Legends? When the Academy burned, it wasn't firepower that saved those children. It was one human's heart. Rick Walsh didn't fight for medals or orders. He fought because someone cried his name. And that is the thing about us humans. We may not always be the smartest or strongest in the galaxy, but when it comes to protecting what we love, we don't stop. If this story moved you, if it reminded you why Humanity&AlienWars' courage echoes across the stars, let us know in the comments. Would you have stood your ground like Rick did? What do you think makes humans different from every other species out there? If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe, not just to support the channel, but to help more people hear these stories about what makes humanity truly legendary. Stay curious, stay brave, and as always, this is humanity. And this is why the galaxy remembers us. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next HFY story.